you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. I am James Murphy, and that is Pierre McGuire. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well. I'm more concerned about you. How you doing? Jimmy, how you holding up?
I got a bad connection, Pierre. I'm going to have to reconnect. I'll be right back. If you could just carry up.
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure. Jimmy's been dealing with the death of a very good friend. And so he's in transit right now, and that's part of why we're having technical difficulties, but he will be back sooner rather than later. And even if he's only doing it on a telephone line, it'll be well worth it. What an amazing night in the National Hockey League last night. If you're a Ranger fan, did you ever think your team would be 0-3 on home ice and have scored no goals to date? That's never happened in the National Hockey League before. I'm not sure it'll happen again anytime soon. It's a phenomenal thing to think about. The other thing that really stood out to me last night, the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks had a real tight, hard-fought win against the Pittsburgh Penguins at home. Pittsburgh was on the road. But what stood out to me, resiliency, the Chris Kreider power play factor, which is mammoth for that team, and the way Carlson is playing, and the way that Seneke is playing, and the way that Cutter Gauthier is playing. Cutter Gauthier is doing this year what I thought he would do last year, and I thought last year he'd make himself a legitimate candidate to be the Rookie of the Year. That just didn't manifest itself, and it didn't happen. But just getting back to the Rangers in Edmonton before Jimmy joins us, the one thing I'm very comfortable saying, I think the Rangers will get better as the season goes along. I don't know if that'll be good enough to get them to where they want to be, which is a playoff spot. But the Edmonton Oilers want to go back to the playoffs, and they want to go to the Stanley Cup final. And I would say this. If they play total team defense, I'm not saying the defense, I'm not saying the goalie. By the way, Stuart Skinner was phenomenal last night. But if they play total team defense the way they played last night in New York, they're going to be life and death to make the playoffs. They are. They really are. So, Jimmy, I know you're back right now. Welcome back. I was just talking about the Rangers in Edmonton. Oh, you're not back. Jimmy, just get on a phone line. Shane, get Jimmy on a phone line. We don't need to see his face right now. And so, I think the biggest thing with Edmonton is going to come down to Chris Knobloch doing a real good job getting his guys ready and accommodating when it comes to playing total team defense. And if you don't believe me, I'd love to sit down and go over the tape with you and show you how their forwards are cheating most of the game to try to manufacture offense rather than play defense and support their goalie and also support their defense. What else stood out to me last night? Carolina at San Jose. The biggest thing is with Carolina, how they're going to hold up with an undermanned defense, but they were able to do it last night against a San Jose team that had no juice in the tank at all. They did not play a very good game. Carolina broke that game open as it went along. But, for San Jose, they're a work in progress. For Carolina, the proof is in the pudding in terms of establishing the rhythm of their offensive game and maintaining their depth on defense. And so I think that, the preseason prognosticators picking Carolina to win the cup, we'll see how that works out. But right now, they're off to a pretty solid start. I'm just worried about the defense and the lack of depth on defense. And one more game I wanted to touch on was Vegas versus Calgary. And what a job Jack Eichel's doing with the Vegas Golden Knights. It's really phenomenal to watch. I know Mitchell Marner's played a part in that. I know Ivan Barbashev has played a part in that. But when you look at Jack Eichel, the way he's carrying the game to the opposition right now, it's really been phenomenal to watch. So I have a lot of respect for what they're doing there in Vegas and Bruce Cassidy in particular. Well, I know he wasn't very happy with his team's first period, but I would say the last 40 minutes or so, they woke up and they played a pretty darn good game. So I look at all those games and I'm saying, yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good, but nothing, and I mean nothing touched on the great effort off the ice by the Montreal Canadiens ownership group and management team and their PR people. And nothing touched on what Marty St. Louis did last night, and nothing touched on what Ivan Demidov and Cole Caulfield did last night, and Lane Hudson as to what the Montreal Canadiens did last night. The Montreal Canadiens were full value. They were absolutely phenomenal last night. Did they play an A game? No. But at different times of their game against Seattle, you could see that when this team really elevates, they're a good team. They're a dangerous team. They're a team that nobody's going to want to play against as they get more and more mature and more set in their structure. And I've always been a believer, and I learned this from the great Scott Bowman, between 10 and 20 points a year, a coach has to make a decision that affects it in a positive way, the team. It affects the team in a positive way. Last night was one of those. And a lot of people say, oh, come on, McGuire, that's a bunch of nonsense. Anybody would have called a timeout there. Everybody has a chance to call a timeout there in overtime. We see it all the time with overtime games, but not many people do it. Marty St. Louis called a timeout just before Nick Suzuki won a faceoff. Puck ends up on Lane Hudson's stick. He does all kinds of edge control and athleticism. Eventually does a cross and drop with Cole Caulfield, and Cole Caulfield scores on Decord, high short side. Just a beautiful 3-on-3 goal. But I'm convinced, even as I watched it over probably 15 to 20 times today, that doesn't happen without Marty calling a timeout. So I have so much respect for Marty and what he's done. He's gotten better as a coach. Remember last year at this time, everybody was burying him. They were crushing him. Can't coach, doesn't know how to teach, terrible defense, team that's not prepared to play. And nothing could be further from the truth. So he's well on his way to being, I think, a tremendous coach. And I think he's already made a massive difference for his team this year. You know, you look at it, they go into Toronto and they lose, but they still play a good game for probably 40 minutes of that game. Toronto was urgent in the third period and took over the game in the third period. Going to Detroit and win a game, going to Chicago and win a game, in a game that was not a Rembrandt, but it was a hard game to play. And they found a way to do it in the last 15 seconds on a Caden Gooley game-winning shot with a great screen by Uri Slavkovsky. And then they come home, all the emotion, all the energy, all the passion in the building, and they end up taking charge of it and winning the game. So I've never been this bullish on the Montreal Canadiens since I was a little kid in the 1970s, watching them win all these great cups, starting in 71 and finishing in 79. And nobody will forget the 8-loss team in 76, 77. So for Canadiens fans, you guys should be really excited, pumped up. It's a great time to be a fan of your team. I know Nashville comes in on Thursday, and then you got the Rangers on Saturday night with all kinds of fireworks. So it's a fun thing to watch right now if you're in Montreal. I'm going to ask producer Shane. I know that Michael Farber is laying in the wings right now. Shane, if you could put Michael Farber up, and Michael and I will start this interview. I don't want Michael sitting around too long. There he is, the king of Verdun, Quebec, Michael Farber. Hi, Michael.
I'm doing great. Verdun, Quebec. I mean, how many great people has it produced? Not me, but W. Scott Bowman.
Yes.
Henny Savard.
Yes.
Ray Bork played junior here.
Yes.
Dolly Saint Laurent. I mean, the list goes on. Unfortunately, I'm not included.
No, but I can say that you are the Prime Minister of Bayonne, New Jersey.
Yeah. Notice I'm no longer there. They kicked my sorry butt out a long time ago.
Legendary Bayonne bleeder Chuck Wepner, who fought Muhammad Ali and was a liquor salesman in New Jersey.
So I will tell you this story. When Chuck got back, having fought Ali in Richfield, Ohio, I went on liquor rounds with him.
Wow.
I can't remember the name of the company he was working for, but we were going in Jersey City, and he was stopping in every bar and buying a round for the house at lunchtime and one for him. By the time his Cadillac came back to Bayonne, he was weaving back and forth. And the story that he kept telling everybody in the bar, that if the fight had been in a phone booth, I'd be heavyweight champion in the world, because he stepped on Ali's foot and knocked him down. And I forget what round it was. But yeah, that was Chuck. He was a handful.
Yeah, no question. I think he's passed though, right, Michael? I think Chuck Wepner?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, Chuck's good. Last time I saw him was 20 years ago or so. But yeah, Bayonne guys. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing, because he laid it out there like he was the Bayonne bleeder for a reason.
Well, at that fight, and I didn't cover it, I was working for the Record in Hackensack, New Jersey at that point. But there's a press gift, Pierre, that they give everybody. At that fight, they gave the reporters red windbreakers. So if Chuck bled, Yeah, it wouldn't be noticeable.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I want to salute you. I was sitting at my home in South Carolina last night watching all the games, and they said on TSN that they were going to put up a Michael Farber tribute to Ken Dryden. Michael, that wasn't a little bit good. Like, if that's in the United States, that's an Emmy award-winning piece. What went into the production of that, Michael? Because it was just so good. It really was.
Unfortunately, it was rushed because I'd actually been told the night before that Ken had passed, but the family didn't want that news released. I guess it came overnight, and in the morning, TSN asked me to do something.
Right.
But it's tight production, and it may not be news to some of your viewers, but obituaries are generally done well in advance. And this one was it was written and voiced within about an hour. And you knew Ken, and Ken was thoughtful, and Ken would be long-winded. And I wish, in honor of him, I'd had more time to craft it. So credit to the people at TSN who put it together. I just did the words and the voice. I mean, the pictures were all them. But if I had more time to think about it, and I thought about this the next day, that Dryden on his stick, that pose, is as familiar to your listeners on this podcast as the Rodin statue of the thinker is to Parisians.
Yeah.
And Dryden was a thinker. And I could have worked that in somehow. And you only get one shot at it. And I did as well as I could. But I know in my heart it could have been better. But thank you for...
Well, I loved it. My wife loved it. And she's not a real big hockey lady, but she watched and she was really blown away by it. And Michael, I just want to say one other thing. I'm watching that and I'm going, I remember 1971 like it was yesterday in the old Chicago Stadium. And I remember the antique clock in old Chicago Stadium. And I remember the big save against, obviously Jimmy Pappin. But what I remember the most from that game, and maybe you have a different memory of it, I remember Henri Richard's 2 goals.
Sure.
And the fights that he was having with his coach at the time, Al McNeil. And Henri was saying Al was nothing but an American Hockey League coach. And I remember all that. And that, how many years ago is that? That's over 50 years ago. It's almost 55 years ago.
No, it's true. I saw Ken first play when he was with Cornell. And they were in Meehan Rink in Providence, place you've been in.
At Brown University. I've been to Meehan many a time.
Brown University. And Brown had a really good team at that time. 1 or 2 of the Bennett boys were there. The Bennett
Both
brothers.
Bennetts were there, yep.
And there was a guy named Dennis Max. Excuse me, Pierre, I'm going to have a sip of water.
Good, I'll join you.
Diesel Max, who became a legend when he played for the Providence Reds in the AHL. So this was a good Brown team, and Ned Harkness's the Cornell came in and beat him. So I had seen, and Kenny was on my radar then, but I didn't get to know him until I moved to Montreal in 1979, just during the playoffs, and so I was around a little bit. And got to know him basically after he retired because wasn't that much contact with him. And over the years, we would talk, and there were no short conversations, right? With Ken Dryden, you never have a short conversation?
No, there were none. There were no short conversations.
And it occurred to me after his death that they really weren't conversations because I didn't do much of the talking. I did a lot of the listening, and I was smarter for it. One of the things that's been forgotten, because Dryden, of course, it's Montreal-centric, but I came out in the piece that you would have seen last night, is his role with the Maple Leafs.
Yep, president.
president. And if you go back to '93, and we saw the Kings and the Leafs in that great Western Conference final. It wasn't Western Conference then, it was the Campbell Conference. But Dryden knew that wasn't sustainable. Maple Leafs have to be East. And he pushed for it and got his way. And that's such an important move in the history of the Leafs franchise. And it's almost forgotten. One of the other things, and talk about gentle ironies, he wanted to bring some of what we saw last night in Montreal to Toronto. This was a heritage franchise, and he wanted to bring some of that ceremony, that sense of history, that appreciation for the past. And again, the Leafs, they're not strangers to the Stanley Cup, have been for a while, but historically, 13 cups, is it? And I think that's second only in Montreal. So to make the Maple Leafs more and bigger, and not just media driven, but because this franchise really meant something. And it started with Ken, who really just tried to take it past Harold Ballard and all that had gone on then, and make Toronto the epicenter of the league. And he deserves credit for that. And a lot of that has been forgotten in his passing.
In all the years you've covered so many amazing athletes and so many amazing athletic events, have you ever seen anybody that's crossed so many different lines? Player, Ivy League educated student, a minor league goalie, international league goalie, member of parliament, president of an NHL team. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, did your kids ever take a gap year? Did Justine ever take a gap year? Did Ryan ever take a gap year?
No, they were busy playing, and Justine had the Olympic goal, so there were no gap years for her.
Well, Kenny Dryden was playing for Stanley Cups, and he took a gap year.
At McGill, yes.
Yeah, he took a year off from the Montreal Canadiens and to clerk for a law firm. I mean, that's, to me, as exceptional as anything. Yeah, we'll see you in a year, but I have something I need to do now. He was a great writer. He was a great speaker. I mean, the game, of course, is the beginning, but not the end of what he contributed. The book on Montador, Steve Montador, I thought was exceptional.
It was.
And passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you agreed with everything or not, that was almost beside the point. Mm-hmm. But he had strong views and he expressed them beautifully. The only athlete that comes to mind, it's not in hockey, who might be similar would be Bill Bradley.
Princeton educated, for our viewers north of the border. Princeton educated, ran for the presidency, was a senator from the state of New Jersey. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was he from the state of Missouri?
Yeah, he was from Missouri. He was a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah, he was Rhodes Scholar.
So, all these things. And if you want to read something special about Bill Bradley, I know we're zooming way off topic here. John McPhee wrote a book called The Sense of Where You Are. John McPhee, who's still with us, one of the great prose nonfiction writers, certainly of the last 60 years or so. Just fabulous.
Yeah, I love that. And I had so much time for Ken, and I would cherish the moments when, especially when he was running the Leafs. Gordon Miller and I would be in there to do a lot of games, as you know. And it wasn't more than 5-10 minutes. And, for Ken, that was a short time. And he really was so pronounced on the headshot issue and the well-being of players. It meant a lot to him. And he not that he converted me, but I watched what was going on. I was at ice level and watching fights from the 60s and the 70s and maybe being in some of them in the early 80s. And then to see where it was in the late 90s and the early 2000s, Michael, that was a totally different type of fighting. It was totally different.
Well, one of the things about hockey in the 80s that made it spectacular was a freshet of goals. You would see goals every night.
Yeah.
And almost as much as the fighting, there was a sense of menace about the game. That you went to a game and you might see something you'd never seen before. And it might be 3 fights. It might be moments of irrationality. It might be one team putting up 10 goals. Or in the case of Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers against the Mickey Mouse organization,
New Jersey Devils.
13 goals.
Yes.
That game was 13-4 before Gretzky labeled the Devils a Mickey Mouse organization, pre-Lou Lamoriello, of course.
Yeah.
We have to add. So hockey was different, and there was a different entertainment value to the games. There were more events. But let's go back to what we saw last night. What's different about this Montreal Canadiens team is it's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen that in a long time. I mean, PK Subban was entertaining. Alex Kovalev was entertaining. If you like goaltending, I guess that was entertaining too. But this hasn't been an entertaining team for a while. And when Toronto started getting good, I thought that was going to be Montreal's worst nightmare because they had these really high-end offensive players. And that's why we like to watch the games. And suddenly, with Demidov joining and Hudson joining last year, and Caulfield, what he's able to do, shoot the puck, and a cerebral player like Suzuki, they're entertaining. And when you're charging belt-centered prices, you better be entertaining. You can't just sell nostalgia. You just can't sell steamed hot dogs. I mean, you got to sell something. And now we're seeing some sizzle. And I know you think there's some substance there too.
I do. I think there's a lot of substance there. And I love the way you talked about the entertainment factor. But I look at a player like Mike Matheson, who for a long time was on the wrong side of the Mendoza line. He was getting a lot of bad stuff from the media and from the fans. All of a sudden, they've taken that first power play responsibility away from him, and he's a different player. I'm convinced that's been a huge part of this. It's an honor to coach players like Paul Coffey and Larry Murphy and Christopher Pronger, guys that I've had over the course of my career, elite players, all Hall of Famers. Power play for them was the most important thing. It's like a quarterback that goes back and I can throw the 10-yard out or I can throw the 45-yard post pattern. I'll take the post pattern. You know what I mean? And so for those guys, the power play mattered a lot. And I didn't see other players like that could handle that. And I think that bothered Michael Matheson. And now I see him without the power play. And Michael, he's a different player. He's a different player.
Well, power play got you paid. I mean, you were getting points, and ultimately you're going to be judged on that. Well, I mean, he skates. Newhook skates.
Yep.
Demidov dangles. Caulfield snipes. I mean, there are all these elements. Yeah, I mean, they're holes. They're holes in the middle of the lineup. And second line center, and I'm sure Montreal fans talk about that incessantly. I also have not been wildly bowled over by some of the goaltending from Montembeault yet. We've seen Dobish once, and he didn't win the Summer Macintosh Award for swimming, which is a good thing because when we saw him last year.
For our American viewers out there, Summer Macintosh, legendary Canadian swimmer. Okay.
Yeah. He was doing laps last year in front of his crease. He seemed a little bit calmer. So I'm sure we'll see him a bit. And the goalie they're going to have in the American League this year, and you're very high on Fowler, are you not?
Jacob Fowler, I think, could have a chance to be. I'm not going to say as good as Marty Brodeur. That's not fair. But there's a lot of Brodeur in him, a lot. We'll see if it pans out. All I know is the first time I saw Marty play, he was 16 years old. And I told my boss at St. Lawrence, got to have this guy, got to get him. And I remember his Hall of Fame speech. He said, I knew I kind of had a chance when I was 16 years old, and St. Lawrence offered me a hockey scholarship. Like, that's good. That's good. That's true too. So you like the athleticism, you like the speed, you like a lot of the quote unquote depth. But like Brendan Gallagher to me has gone to another level. I did not think he'd have much game left. I think Brendan's got a lot of game left. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Well, a couple of years ago, if Montreal could have traded that player and that contract, I'm sure they would have been delighted to do so. But any group is going to need some of what he brings. You can't, and they're the youngest team in the league, I do believe.
Yes, they are.
You need some of that. And I didn't think there was going to be much tread left on that tire. But in the role he has now, yeah, he's still very effective at bothering goaltenders and playing hard. And you need some of that. And certainly at the bottom end of your forward group. So if you look at the players who are maturing, we haven't mentioned Caden Gooley yet.
No.
There are players who should be on a similar timetable in their maturation process.
Yep.
And where that goes, we don't know, whether it all work together. If you get all the pieces working right, and you see some of the traditionally, or what is now traditionally, good teams in the Eastern Conference starting to fade a little bit. Pittsburgh isn't what it was, obviously, and Washington had a good run last year, but I'm not sure where Washington's going to be. It seems there's a window opening not only for this team, but within the conference.
Agreed, 100% on that. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think Boston's a work in progress. I think the Rangers didn't do enough shopping in the offseason. The Islanders are a major work in progress. Philly's a work in progress. Pittsburgh's a rebuild. I wouldn't go to sleep on Columbus, though. I wouldn't go to sleep on the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they got a chance to really take a big step, much like Montreal did last year. I wanted to ask you about let's just say, the notoriety of a player like Arbor Jackeye. Saturday night, you got the potential for fireworks, the Rangers coming in. Does that stuff still happen? Does the intimidation part still lure fans into the building?
I'm not sure it lures fans into the building. Jackeye is probably overappreciated. If you just look at his contributions on the ice, and because he can do certain things that people have a visceral response to, whether I like fighting or you like fighting, it doesn't matter. We're not paying for our tickets.
Right.
These people are. And there's an appeal there. And now we're getting back to Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
It's very tough to justify it intellectually. But, sometimes you watch a game, not with your brain, but with your heart. Hmm. And so this is what Jackeye can do. And you need somebody to keep the flies off players at times. And that's true, because intimidation has been, and I suspect will always be, part of it. But now let's go back to another guy we've talked about, and that's Scotty in Detroit. And Detroit intimidated you other ways, like, take penalties, we'll score 3 on a power play tonight. Mm-hmm. And when you really needed it, they'll bring up somebody from the minors, if it's going to be one of those games. And they would do that. And of course, in an earlier era, they had
Probert and Kosar.
So they could do it. Yeah. But, there are all kinds of ways to be intimidating, and Jackeye is one.
Yeah. Speaking of intimidating, you used to work for a man who I believe was a very strong mentor of yours, the late Red Fisher. And I had so much fun traveling with him the 2 years I did the Montreal Canadiens radio. And I used to sit near Red on the planes, because back then you were still going commercial. There weren't a lot of charters. What was it like to work with him? What was it like to have him as a mentor?
Red was very particular. He had his ways about him. We all know he wouldn't speak to rookies most of the time. Patrick Waugh made an exception, which is a pretty good call. Red liked his Chivas neat.
Mm-hmm. No ice, yeah.
He liked his hotel rooms in the corner. He liked his soup scalding. He liked his toast burnt. And things needed to be, excuse me, a certain way. So I'll tell you one story why Red didn't talk to me for several months. And this was during a playoff series against Hartford. And I was writing for the Montreal Gazette at the time. And I had finished my column for the next day, staying in the Sheraton. And walked down to the lobby, and there's Pat Burns, who literally grabs me and says, Courtnall, I'm tired of his nonsense. You know, I can't deal with him anymore. He's out tomorrow night. Not going to play the guy. He's scratched. I'm fed up with him. And this is Russ, not Jeff Courtnall. Russ Courtnall. I'm done with him. So I called Red, who's still in his room writing. I said, Red, this is what Pat just said. You're going to scratch Courtnall. And Red said, okay, thanks. And the next morning in the Montreal Gazette, Courtnall's out of the lineup. Well, of course, that night, Courtnall is in the lineup. So I see Pat. I grabbed Pat after the game. I said, Pat, what about Courtnall? And Pat said, well, I scratched him, but Serge Savard unscratched him. So now Red, his name is on the story, obviously. Oh, he was pissed. Didn't speak to me the rest of the playoffs.
Oh, that's funny.
In September. Red had his standards, and I screwed him.
That's funny. We're going to leave it there. I've kept you long enough. I'm so grateful for your time. I can't wait to see you the next time I'm up in Montreal. Thank you, Michael. Last night was spectacular. I know you're a hard marker. You're a little bit like Red that way, but your performance last night on the Ken Dryden piece was outstanding. Thank you.
Well, I'll leave you with this, Pierre. I wrote it years ago that the only two institutions in Western civilization that understand ceremony are the House of Windsor and the Montreal Canadiens. Maybe I'm short selling the Vatican here, but they're pretty good.
I think really good. Michael, thank you so much. I'll look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. Take care.
That's the great Michael Farber, who is a legendary writer for the Bergen Record. He was a great writer for Sports Illustrated for so many years. He's a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. And to me, he's been an amazing friend for so many years, and the voice of reason when I'd get over emotional about different hockey issues. So I'm really indebted and grateful that Michael took the time to join us today. His piece on Ken Dryden, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure it's online. Take a look. You'll be blown away, and you'll see what kind of a perfectionist Michael Farber really is. Before we get to your questions, we got to talk about our great sponsors. So first, we'll go to Vago Italian. It's open 23 years. It's had unbelievable longevity. There are not many restaurants that have been open for that long. They have private dining rooms for any occasions. And trust me, my family, my friends, they've used them a lot. NHL teams have used it a lot. They're great for corporate meetings. There's plenty of free parking on Green Avenue and anywhere around if you know Westmount. And it's a real civilized part of the city of Montreal. They're open on Monday to Saturday evenings and lunch on Tuesday to Friday. So you've got a wide array of different opportunities to go there. The ingredients is always fresh. It's old world Italian classics and new Italian. Come and see Tommaso, and I've known Tommaso for 23 years. He's the most popular guy in Westmount, and for sure on Green Avenue. And I can tell you this right now. I go there whenever I'm in Montreal. My mom goes at least once a week, and I can't wait to take my mother there in early November when I've got to go to Montreal to appear at a different function. So I want to thank everybody at Vago. Thank you so much for your sponsorship and your friendship and your trust. And then we'll go to Betway. Betway's been with Jimmy and I for a long period of time now, almost 3 years. Bet the beauties with Betway, and you get a deposit matchup bonus of up to $300 on your first deposit. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details sections to create an account and redeem your offer. Offers are only available for new customers, and I mean only new customers. Terms and conditions apply. This offer is not available in Ontario yet. I'm sure it will be at some point. You got to be 18 plus, and please play responsibly. And if you're not feeling good about some of the things you're doing, don't do it. It's that simple. Shane, thank you so much for all your help on this show. Jimmy, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about your family. We're thinking about your friends. And we really respect what you're going through right now. Shane, let's get to the questions. Sound the siren. Guys, I know it's only game 4, but does it feel like this is almost a must-win for Buffalo? Additionally, Kevin Adams has to be feeling massive heat despite the insane amount of injuries. First of all, this is a critical game. Sound the siren for the Buffalo Sabres on home ice against the Ottawa Senators, a Senators team that's getting Drake Batherson back, but has lost Brady Tkachuk, which is a huge loss for them. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their lines. I've seen some potential lines going into the game, but I don't know whether those will hold true or not. So I don't want to speculate on the lines. But to me, the biggest thing about Kevin Adams, and I know he was part of your Stanley Cup winning team down in Carolina, sound the siren. Kevin's been at this for almost 6 years now, and it hasn't really worked out. It has not. And they have not taken a step forward. This is a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for over a decade, which is unconscionable in such a great hockey market. So I don't know what happens with him, whether they win or lose, but I have to think he's on pretty thin ice right now. Next question. CMOC hockey training. Pierre, what would you do as a Sabres GM to turn around that franchise? What do you think needs roster-wise to improve? Defense needs to be better. They've got to establish a goaltending situation and philosophy. They bounce around with all these different goalies. It's not good enough. I think they need to find a way to make their star players feel like they're surrounded by better players. They've drafted a lot from certain situations. I think they need to draft less on skill and more on will, if that makes sense. And I think the biggest thing in Buffalo right now is establish an identity that's very much like the city of Buffalo. Resilient, tough, proud, and more than anything else, loyal. They are a loyal community, and the Buffalo Sabres, I think, used to be that kind of loyal. I don't know if the players feel that kind of loyalty anymore. Gerbhoss. I keep seeing folks complaining about Monty getting the starts. I still firmly believe he's among the top 10 in the NHL. Having said that, I really like Dobich. What are your thoughts? I think Monty's a work in progress. I think one of the things that has to happen with him, when he's really good, he looks big in net because he's a big guy. But when he's not good, it reminds me a little bit of Tristan Jarry in Pittsburgh. And if you don't know what I mean, go watch some of the goals that he gave up last night against Anaheim. He looks small in net. When Monty gives up bad goals, he looks small in net too. I like it when guys look a little bit bigger. Dobich looks big all the time. When Dobich gets in trouble, it's because he drops too quickly and he's swimming. That's a way different thing than what's going on with Monty. But I do think Monty's a good goalie. I think eventually, as I talked about with Michael Farber, Jacob Fowler will be the goalie of record for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think it'll happen this year, but I do think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Next one, Shane. JUS Juice _ 031017. Thank you so much for your participation in the show, by the way. I love your questions. Juraj Slafkovsky has 1 goal through 4 games, but I honestly feel like he's making a positive impact on the game. Is he the definition of an eye test player? He is right now, and his eye test skills are better. Last year, I couldn't stand the way he was playing. He was reaching for the puck. He wasn't playing through people. He was playing with one hand on his stick. He wasn't establishing slot area presence. He wasn't very dominant on the cycle, and he wasn't winning foot races and forecheck situations. I see a completely different player. He's getting assists. I know he only has 1 goal. He's making a difference on his line. His line's manufacturing much more offense. Cole Caulfield's off to a tremendous start. Nick Suzuki will start to heat up. I think Slav will start to heat up, and his attitude's been good. So I agree with you on that, but he is definitely an eye test player. He's not a numbers player. Next. Ethan Russell. Surprised by Seattle's start so far. Think that they can keep it up. First of all, I know you watch them because Brandon Montour is a former UMass Amherst Minuteman, so I know that that's your school of record. I'm a little bit surprised, but I was telling Jimmy earlier today, there are two teams in the league that are being affected by Barry Trotz. One of them is a team where he's a general manager down in Nashville, where they're playing a style that's very similar to the way he used to coach, whether it was in Nashville or it was in Washington or whether it was with the New York Islanders, or even for those that are fans of the American Hockey League when he was winning Calder Cups with the Portland Pirates. Tight checking, hard to play against, not a lot of room in the neutral zone, hard grinding forecheck, physical, omnipresent hockey. That's what Barry Trotz was known for, and that's the way his teams played. Nashville's playing like that this year. They didn't last year. Andrew Burnett used to play and coach with Barry over time, so I think that's where that comes from. But Lane Lambert was his longtime assistant, and Lane Lambert is coaching very similar style of hockey as to what Barry Trotz used to speak about. And I think when you coach that way, you can make teams that are a little less skillful more able to win or have a chance to win. And I think that's one of the things Seattle's doing. So, yeah, I'm happy for them. They're starting to get an identity. I was worried about them before the season started, but now you start to see an identity come forward for them. Shane, next one, please. Chris from the Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, we will ever hear the famous goals. Oh, will we ever hear the famous goal song at MSG? I think that we should be all right. They're playing decent hockey. I still think that they need another game breaker. Your thoughts? Let's go Rangers. Chris, you are an unbelievable fan of the New York Rangers. I did not think the season would go well out of the gate for the New York Rangers. It has not gone well for the New York Rangers. There are 2 wins right now are against non-playoff teams, in my opinion, the Buffalo Sabres and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the game with Pittsburgh was tied 1-1 well into the second period, way past halfway point of the game. The Rangers blew it open in the third on the power play, but quite frankly, I think they've had a lot of issues. I think they've had a lot of issues in New York. I didn't think they were addressed in the offseason. I don't think there's enough depth in their defense. They called up Scott Morrow today, who came over in the Keandre Miller trade. I'm worried about them. The offense, I think, will start to percolate. I'm more concerned about their defense. I really am. And I felt that way going into the season. I still feel that way. Thank you. Next question. Franco, if you're Hugo, are you looking for a younger 2C to fit your core's age or an older 2C with more cup pedigree whose role would be to help a younger player take a spot? Hager, Zarofsky. I love this question. I'd be doing what the Winnipeg Jets did. They know they needed to bring some Stanley Cup pedigree into their organization. They went and got a local boy, Jonathan Toews. It's something I really wanted to do when I was in Ottawa. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'll say it now. We would have had a chance to get Jonathan Toews. I know he was not feeling great back then, but I think it would have stimulated his spirit and really been a good thing for our organization at the time. I didn't get a lot of traction internally, and that's why we didn't pursue it. But it's something that really intrigued me. I was in Pittsburgh when we brought in Brian Trottier to insulate Mario Lemieux at the time. We did not have Ronnie Francis yet when we brought Brian in. Brian made a huge difference on the 91 and 92 Stanley Cup teams and a gigantic difference on the 93 President's Trophy winning team. So those kinds of players are really valuable. I'd like to see the Canes go out and get an older guy rather than a younger guy, because I think they've got enough young guys. I think they need an older guy to teach everybody what it takes to win. And then Michael Hage or Zarofsky can come in and fill that role. Vinny Poli. Hey, Pierre, what asset will Montreal trade for that second line center and when? As long as they keep winning, I don't know what kind of rush they're going to be in, Vinny, to get one of those second line centers. In terms of assets, I think it would be a young player. It might be a defenseman. It might be a package of draft picks, but they'd have to give up a tangible asset, I think, to get a second line center. Chris Gaming TV for Pierre. I've been impressed by Ben Kindle so far. Do you think the Penguins will keep him for the season? I've been really impressed by Ben Kindle. I do all the Pittsburgh Penguins pregame shows with the great Paul Steigerwald, the living legend there in Pittsburgh. And I would tell you right now, Ben Kindle's blown me away. He's not an overly large guy. I watched him play in Calgary, obviously in the Western Hockey League, and he did some amazing things out there. But Ben Kindle, to me, is a spectacular talent. And it comes at the right time for the Pittsburgh Penguins with Malkin getting older and Crosby getting older. Ben Kindle's a guy they're going to be able to pass the torch to long term. It's going to take a little more time for him to be there, but I've been really impressed with Ben, and I think I don't know if he'll stay there the whole year. I do think if Pittsburgh's wise, the way they're going to handle Harrison Brunick and Ben Kindle is going to say a lot about management and what they're trying to accomplish this year. I think both those players should be given the opportunity to play for Team Canada at the World Junior, because the tournament's in Minnesota this year. And I would let both of them go. And the precedent's been set. The Pittsburgh Penguins actually did it with Marc-Andre Fleury back in 2003, 2004, when they let him go play for Canada after he started the year in the NHL with the Penguins. They let him go play for Canada in the World Junior, and that really helped Marc-Andre long term. So I think there's already been a precedent set, and there's been other players. For a year, Kulik did it for the Czech Republic. He was playing with Rochester Americans. So there are a lot of players that have done that, and I think it would be a wise thing for Pittsburgh to look at. And go back to back. Okay. Am I crazy that I would pair DeBrincat and Kane on line 3 with Larkin if I'm Team USA? I think it's early to do that. I kind of like your handle, though. That's cool. That's good. I think Patrick has more of an opportunity. If Brady can't play, I think Patrick's going to have an opportunity to be part of that team and make a meaningful presence. The one thing that I just wonder, how do they view Kyle Connor? How are they going to view Chris Kreider, especially with the start that Kreider's had so far? What's their plan? Do they have a plan to maybe include Will Smith on USA? I don't know. So we'll see. Billy Guerin's in charge of that, obviously, so we'll see how it plays out. But Dylan should be on that team. Dylan should be on that team. I'm not sure whether DeBrincat and Kane make it or not. I just don't know. Juice _ 031017. Would you make a change in the power play, moving Ivan Demidov on the first power play? The answer is yes, I would. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I was very upset last year when they didn't have Lane Hudson on the first power play for the first about month and a half of the season. And then once he got on there, the power play started to click. I think Demidov on the first power play would make a big difference. Probably take Slav off that and put him on the second, but I understand what they're doing. They're trying to keep, Caulfield, Sapkowski, and Suzuki together as a line so that they can load up the minutes on them coming out of a power play. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I would give Demidov a shot on the first power play, yes. CMOC hockey training. Pierre, do you think Kreider can reach 25 goals mark this year? He looks so good in Q system. Such a great pickup by the Ducks. Playoff bound for the Ducks. I've been bullish on the Ducks for the last 2 years. It didn't work out last year, and I know Greg Cronin coached his butt off last year with Anaheim. I just think that a lot of those young guys weren't ready for the challenge that Coach Cronin presented for them. They're a little bit more mature this year, and a lot of that's because of the standards that Coach Cronin taught them. Joel going in there, I talked to him before he took the job. He had other opportunities. I think part of why he took Anaheim is because of the great young talent that they have. And so do I think Kreider can get 25 goals? CMOC, the answer is yeah, I do. I think Kreider can get 25 goals. Ethan. Russell, how much will the Panthers suffer from Kulikov's injury? Looks like 5 months. It's 5 months or more. It might even be 6 months. It's a risk situation. That's why I'm a little bit worried about Brady. I broke my wrist 3 times when I was a player. Not nearly as severe as what these guys did. I never missed a game. I played with a mobile cast and took some painkillers. But it's a very painful injury to have. I can tell you that right now. And in terms of Donovan Sabrango actually got picked up on waivers today from Ottawa to Florida. He's played a grand total of 4 NHL games, but clearly somebody in Florida watched him this preseason. I thought he had a really good preseason for Ottawa. He's a physical guy. And so he can fit in on that. I think he can fit in on that, third tandem, maybe even be a depth guy as number 7. So we'll see. But you know what? I wish him all the best. I don't think Ottawa was planning on losing him. I think they were hopeful that he would clear, but obviously he didn't clear. And now he's got an opportunity to go to the defending Stanley Cup champs. Mike Gaudette, what would it cost to get Alex Tuch from Buffalo to Montreal? I think it cost a lot. I think it would. I think you're probably looking at least one young D. You're probably looking at 1 forward, and you're probably looking at a real early pick. I'm going to say 3 components to get him. I'm not sure Buffalo wants to trade him in the division. And when you consider Alex is a Syracuse kid, his parents live in the Thousand Islands area right now, right on the St. Lawrence River, not far from, obviously Montreal, where their son Luke is playing in Laval. I would be shocked if Buffalo would trade him to Montreal, a division opponent. Franco, Pierre, how does the Islanders winning the last draft lottery and McKenna being available affect any trade discussions involving first-round picks this season? I don't think anybody's in a rush to trade their first-round picks, especially if you think you're not going to be a playoff team. This draft's really deep. We talked about it last year. It was much deeper than what this past draft was, even though we're seeing a lot of those kids from this year's early part of the draft get some NHL minutes. I don't know if that'll last the whole year. But I don't see a lot of people in a rush to trade, for first-round picks this year. I think it'd be hard to move a first-round pick. Any more? Shane? Shane, are you there? We're hoping that Shane has some more. I don't know if he disappeared, if I've disappeared or not from the show. Shane, anything left? That's it. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate it. To everybody at home, thank you so much to Jimmy Murphy and his family and all his friends. Everybody here at the iTest family are thinking about you. To the great Michael Farber, thank you so much, Michael. You were an amazing guest. You're an amazing friend. You've been an amazing role model for the entire journalism community. And thank you so much for your heartfelt thoughts about Ken Dryden, about the state of hockey, and especially the Montreal Canadiens. It was great. To everybody out there, Jimmy and I will be back tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you and talking with you more. The question part of this show is what makes us so excited to do the show day in and day out. Thank you. You've been watching another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.